George, welcome back to Girona.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
I wanted to kind of go right back before Girona. We'll get to there, because I've been thinking about modern adventure and what you're doing, and it reminded me kind of, I don't know much about your origin story into cycling, because it's pretty random in the first place, a kid in the States getting into cycling, especially when you did. Can you tell us a bit about you kind of getting into cycling?
Yeah, I certainly took the unconventional path. Not only was it not a very popular sport in the United States, but I was in New York, so it was even less popular and less ideal for riding a bike. But in many ways, it actually ended up being ideal for me, and it actually ended up paving my career because of the chaos and the amount of traffic and the amount of stress goes on in riding a bike in New York City. It really helped fine-tune my senses on the bike, which, as you know, is half the battle in many of these races. Just being efficient in the peloton and being able to foresee little holes that most people can't see. And I truly believe riding and learning how to race a bike in Central Park and Prospect Park in the city really helped me with that as a young rider. Once I got to Belgium, my first year pro on the Motorola team, you know, most people get there and they're just kind of blown away with the stress and the danger. And for me, it was like, oh, it's not too bad. I came from New York City where I was worried about getting run over by a taxi or running into a jogger or whatever. But it was the stress level was a lot less for me, and I felt very comfortable. The more stressful a race was, the more comfortable I was. And I know it was due to the fact of growing up riding a bike in New York City.
So what years were those? I'm just trying to kind of picture who were the idols for you at the time, and kind of what was the pathway for Americans at that point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Greg LeMond was a huge rival or huge idol of mine. Bernard Hinault, and then as I started getting older, guys like Steve Bauer, Phil Anderson, Sean Yates, and then all of a sudden I'm on the same team as them. In 1993, I did my first stagiairship with Motorola and did some races in Italy, and was at the dinner table with them and just thinking, what am I doing here? Just super blown away, but really enthusiastic and excited and honored to be part of that program. And so I started racing with them full-time in 1994, and it was just an awesome learning experience for me, watching those guys ride through the peloton. And, you know, those guys obviously not being from Europe, but still gained a lot of respect from the European peloton. And it was, at that time, was pretty rare, you know, to have guys from different countries, not the European continent, to come over and race. And those guys were very successful and were very well respected. And I just kind of followed in their footsteps.
So when you came across to Europe, was that the first time you'd been to Europe in '93, or had you been?
I came over a few times as a junior on the national team. We did races in France and the World Championships, and one year they were in England, and the other year they were in Colorado Springs. But yeah, I would do like 3 to 4 week periods over in Europe racing with the national team before I turned pro.
What were your? Can you kind of think back, remember what your first impressions were of Europe? Kind of what it was like?
Yeah, certainly lots of small roads. Everybody is super good. You know, growing up in New York and in the United States, like the level of juniors at that time wasn't that high. Like I would just ride away from people and, you know, win everything I entered. But you get to Europe and everybody's really good and it's super competitive and it's super dangerous. And so just a lot higher level and a lot more stressful racing.
So through your career, you kind of from, let's say, the early 90s, 94, you turned pro for Motorola. You went through an exceptional career, including 17 Tour de France's. You've kind of seen such incredible highs and lows. What do you think kind of, and also I think one thing that is really interesting, we're in Girona recording this, and there's even a loop here that's this day is called the Hincapie loop, which I don't think anybody knows why anymore.
I don't even know why.
I know why. I know why.
You know why?
Because
I got to ask you the question.
Yeah. So on the climb up, I think it's Santa Pelaya.
Yeah, Santa Pelaya.
I remember when I first got here in 2006, around then there was Hincapie painted on the road.
Yeah, I do remember that, yes. Yeah,
so I think that was the only way. I think that was the reason. People knew that loop because it had Hincapie painted on the road. So, and it's just funny. And over the years it's faded. The name has remained. So, I mean, Girona, this is kind of, you came here, what was it, 99, 2000?
I came here in 97.
97 it was.
97, yeah.
I came here in 2006. And you must have seen it. I mean, I saw it change a lot from 2006 to now.
Yeah.
But what's it like coming back now?
Oh, it's incredible coming back. How much it's changed. The amount of cycling culture here is just, I think, more than anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You'd think, especially with high-level cycling. You see riders all over the place. You see bike shops all over the place. It's in that sense, it's changed dramatically. Obviously, the culture is still here. The Catalan culture is still here, which is amazing that hasn't changed. But it's been fun to watch the city change and almost being overrun by cyclists. Maybe some of the locals don't love that as much, but obviously Factor's here, and Modern Adventure is going to be based here, and other teams are based here as well. So it's become quite the mecca for cycling.
So through, just going back to touching your career, your career is remarkable in many ways, the length and also the kind of the trajectory you took in different directions, and from classic riders to grand tours and everything. But when you concluded your career and you came out, it seems that you've kind of settled into a really stable, great routine. And to me, in many ways, it seems like what you're doing with Modern Adventure, it's kind of taking the road less traveled and not making your life easier. Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like you said, I retired in 2012, so that over 10 years now, 12, 13 years of just, getting into a new rhythm of life and, being home a lot more. But I've always stayed really close to the sport. I've always watched it. I have a show on a podcast that we commentate on a lot of the races. We've had a team back in the day, but this was something of I felt like a really unique and exciting opportunity when my partner in the team, Dustin Harder, came to me and said he wanted to build America's dream Tour de France team again, and he tasked me to get that done. And I said, well, I need a long-term commitment, and obviously, a lot of backing to get there. And we have that commitment now, and we got an incredible staff that we've hired, a leadership team that I have the utmost trust in. And it's just been really appealing, exciting, motivating for me to jump back in. And I know it's also very stressful as well, very nerve-wracking. I know that not everything is going to go right. I know that we're going to, probably get our heads kicked in several times throughout the year. But for me, that's part of the story. Like, we're a new team, we're an upstart team. And I go back to the years of like 7-Eleven when they all of a sudden got invited to the Tour de France, and they got these small results, but the small results were massive stories. And that's kind of my hope with this team, and then eventually become one of the best teams in the world in 5 years or so, and race against the best in the world, and mark our spot in the professional peloton.
Do you see this? I mean, I don't know, I only see it from the outside, but can the state of road cycling in America at the moment, in the United States, do you see this as being, I mean, for the young riders it's one thing, but I think for road cycling in the States, they need it. Yeah. I mean, they want it for sure, but they need it. But I think there's also that, but there's also, I think, global cycling needs it to a certain degree. Yeah. Has that been something you were aware of? Was that kind of part of the motivation? Or
Definitely.
Is it something?
Something for sure is where we've watched over the years the racing dwindle in the United States, while the recreational side of the sport has been growing. So the equation doesn't make that much sense to us. And so we feel like with Modern Adventure cycling team, we're going to hopefully reinvigorate the sport and get more young kids into the sport, and really try to become the team that the best Americans want to ride for. And we have, 10, 15 of some of the best cyclists in the world, but right now they're currently scattered all over the world tour, and it's hard for the American fan base to follow them as much as if they were all sort of centralized on one American team. So that's our goal and our hope that we can ultimately get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was when we spoke in spring of last year, and you were talking about this. I think for Factor, that was the most exciting thing, was the fact that, I mean, racing is in our DNA, and United States is an important market for us on a purely commercial level, but it was also with Rob Gentilis, our founder, it was like, who is American? Yeah. It was kind of like, well, this is really exciting. This is, I mean, and with you backing it, with your brother Rich and the backers, you guys know what you're doing. You've been there, you've done it, as we're talking about. You've been on the journey through different levels, kind of through different teams, but also watching American cycling boom and sort of then dwindle a little bit as well. And it's something that I think is so important. And I think beyond, I can't imagine for these young guys that what they must be thinking, because this wasn't something that was even on the cards. At least when you were starting out, there was 7-Eleven, then Motorola. Yeah. There was that kind of beacon of possibility and hope. Yeah. I think, have you felt with these riders, they understand kind of the opportunity they've been given?
I feel like, yeah, for sure. Some of them definitely are. You can see the excitement, especially the really young guys. I think all of them are, honored to be part of this program. They have a ton of enthusiasm with the amount of support we're giving them. Like they've never seen the amount of support that they're getting right now from our performance team, through our directors, through our executive team. They're just essentially getting everything they need. We made a decision from the early, from the go of this team to really invest in the infrastructure and the image of the team, almost as much as the actual athletes that we've hired, just because we want to start off right. We want to build a solid foundation and then grow from there. And so far, the plan has been working well, and we want to continue to do that. And obviously, once we start racing, next week we're racing in Saudi Arabia. It's time to see if any of that's going to help the riders get some decent results. We're not putting a ton of pressure on them from the start. I'm telling them from the start, look, guys, the only thing I want from you is to ride together as a team, trust each other, don't take any shit in the peloton, and establish your presence in the peloton. That's all I want, and that's more important for me right now than them getting a podium or a top 5 in some of these races.
I think it's super interesting because we've seen in the last 5 years, I guess, and I think you've spoken about this as well, and you just mentioned it before, how all these American riders have dispersed. Yeah. And I think if we go back to the kind of even 70s, 80s, 90s, the Anglophone riders, they referred to them as a foreign legion, because you just have to go and make your own way and be a bit mercurial about kind of, and also it took a certain type of personality to be able to adapt, to go to a foreign country, learn a different language, be in a different team. I think what people probably underestimate as well with a team like Modern Adventure, it's not just there's the opportunity that wasn't there before, it's the opportunity to survive it and grow, because there's not many personality types that can have that independence to go, that upbringing, that background to kind of go and do something completely different. I think that's what's so powerful about this. You're giving a lot of these young kids an opportunity it's a lot safer. Yeah. It's a lot more, I don't want to use the word comfortable, but it gives them the opportunity to trip up. Yeah. And not get scared and not go back home because they're surrounded by people who are from the same culture. Yeah. I think that's something that's so important. And this kind of American vision for the team, is that something you're going to really stand by? Absolutely.
The mandate for the team moving forward, even if once we get to the Tour de France, is always going to be 50% American riders, no matter what. So the goal and the hope would be, if we ever get invited to the Tour de France, we'll have, several American riders on the team racing the Tour de France, and the roster will always be a minimum of 50% American riders. And like you just mentioned, the amount of talent you and I came across in our career that were like extremely, extremely good, but just couldn't handle the differences in culture and missed home so much and just ended up going home, like you said. Like, we know what that feels like, and we don't want those riders. We don't want to lose riders because of that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to say that's not being critical of them, because it very much depends on your upbringing, your background, and your life experience, how you kind of cope in those situations. And so I think that's so important. Now, regards to the kind of, one of my, I guess, probably what you're realizing now as well, the timeline you have is very pragmatic, I think. Yeah. But I think, can you explain a bit the sort of, perhaps the surprise of how you're being welcomed into the scene?
Yeah. The invitations we've gotten so far, like the guys, we have a WhatsApp group with our leadership team. They're like, can you take a day off and like stop talking to organizers? I spent the better part of last year going back and forth to Europe, meeting with organizers and, preaching our dream, pitching our story of where we want to go. And, people want American eyes on their event, and we're getting more invitations than we ever could have imagined. And the first 3 months of the season are going to be jam-packed for us. I wish I can go to every race, but it's just not possible. I want to be on different sides of the world for the next 6 weeks that it's a great problem to have. But we're getting thrown into the deep end from the beginning, which is a lot more than we expected, but it's also super exciting and very motivating for not only us as the management team, but the riders as well.
Do you think that's also, I don't think it was something we'd even considered as your kind of partner, that we were in for the long ride. We understand that this year is going to be just finding your feet. It's incredibly difficult starting a team from scratch, number one, but then especially doing it with young riders. But we kind of understood there's a fairly long timeline to this. Are you prepared for the fact that that might get shrunk because of the fact that there is? But also, I think what's interesting about this is how organizations, media kind of platforms, the actual biggest event organizers in the world want an American team.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for me is really eye-opening, because I think they realize the value to their audience, to their partners, and how important American cycling is to world cycling. Yeah. I think that's something that's been really surprising to me, but obvious now that it's happening. Is it surprising to you?
It was certainly the hope, but as you know, you can never really predict. But all the meetings I had last year, everybody was super receptive, and like you said, they're like, "Yes, we need this. The sport needs this. We want more American eyes. We need an American team." And to go back to your question, are we ready? Going back to what I said earlier on, is that we're investing heavily in the infrastructure, almost as much as the actual athletes. So yes, if things come quicker than we expected, we will be able to pivot, and we're ready.
Can you explain a bit the structure of the team? So you're going to have a US base and a European base. Can you kind of explain a bit to people how it's going to work?
Well, yeah, initially the plan is to obviously right now get into as many races in Europe as we can. We're getting more invitations than we ever expected. And also have a split team that races sort of the iconic old school races in the United States that will help establish who we are in the U.S. and help create a following. There's some races that are popping up, like Philadelphia, Maryland Cycling Classics, potentially the World Cups in Canada are certainly targets of ours if we can get in those. And then the older, Redland Cycling Classics, Aquilas, that are important for building that following up in the United States. It's important for our partners to have a good fan base in the U.S., and we certainly plan on doing those. And also the gravel events. We want to do those, the big marquee gravel events. We want to send a good team there and show up like a real team, with cars and our vans, and show up with a presence.
Yeah. And are you willing to kind of reveal what the mission, the sort of vision plan is regards to timeline? And
the timeline.
The timeline. What you've put in your heads as kind of how you define success over the next few years.
Well, success for me these first 2 years is just being a team that rides together, that trusts each other, that if you watch a race on TV, we may not be winning, but we're riding together all the time and making a statement. So that would make me happy. If the riders are a percentage better than they were when they came to us because of our coaching, because of our equipment, because of the support that we give them, that is success to me. If we get to the Tour de France in 5 years, that is success. Can it happen before that? Absolutely. We're investing in sponsorship search. We're investing heavily in the branding, the storytelling of the team. So our goal is 5 years, but we're not discounting or not giving up hope that it'll happen before that.
Mm. And then finally, for you personally, has it been interesting for you coming back into the kind of pro cycling world? Because often when we're out, we're genuinely on the other side of the barriers, and we kind of settle down there, and it becomes very hard to imagine what it was like being back inside the barriers. I mean, you're not at the races yet, but what does it feel like to be back on the inside of the barriers?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, especially as the team lead of this project. It's been an interesting thing, but it's also something that I've always, in the back of my mind, wanted to do when I was a rider, and came across guys like Jim Mockowitz and I'm missing so many people, but he's obviously an iconic figure in this sport. That the passion they had about building a successful team was what defined them. And to me, in many ways, obviously, I had a 19-year professional career, and that was part of my life. But I want this to be the new part of my life, and I want this to be the new definition of who I am. So feels very purposeful for me and very motivating.
That's amazing. That's a lovely way to end.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Good luck.
Absolutely.